I told you, this thing is bigger than Nino Brown, and I got a list of
Order.
If I'm going down,
Order in
I'm
the
taking a
court.
whole lot
I
of
said
people with
order
me.
in the court.
Nino Brown Boxing, I'm back in the building. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. So I want to talk about this PBC on Fox face-to-face that Errol Spence and Shawn Porter had. We all know September 28th is the fight's coming up. It's a unification bout at the welterweight division. The IBF belt and the WBC belt will be on the line. Now, just a quick summary of the face-to-face was very entertaining. If you have not watched it, go ahead and watch it. Now, the biggest takeaway I took from this is two things. One, it's very apparent that Shawn Porter has developed his skills in speaking in front of the camera, overall speaking, and just being comfortable in that setting. The second thing I noticed is Errol Spence let Shawn Porter off very easily. The reason I say Errol Spence left Shawn Porter off is every single point that Shawn Porter could make against Errol Spence, when he's talking about, he brought up when he felt that Errol Spence contradicted himself, and Errol Spence said, he's basically said Errol Spence said at one point in time that he wished he would have knocked out Mikey Garcia, but then in his face-to-face he said that, he wasn't trying to hurt him. But at the same time, Shawn Porter kept on pouncing on the Mikey Garcia fight, and Errol Spence said, leading up to this fight, all of these boxing experts, all of these analysts, they were saying that the only way I could beat Mikey Garcia is if I bulldoze through him, and Errol Spence said he wanted to show that his skills are superior to Mikey Garcia, and that's exactly what he did. Now, Errol Spence, he talked about the headbutts. He talked about Shawn Porter being a dirty fighter. He talked about Shawn Porter losing fights, and Errol Spence said Shawn Porter was stopped by Kell Brook, and Shawn was like, "No, I wasn't stopped by Kell Brook." And then Errol Spence let Shawn Porter know and said, basically, when I mean stop, he negated every single thing that you do. He negated everything. So, in other words, he may not have physically stopped you, but from a skill perspective, he stopped you. And I felt like Errol Spence kind of took it easy on Shawn Porter for the simple fact Errol Spence could have dove a lot deeper into it, and he could have countered things that Shawn Porter said when he was referring to the Mikey Garcia fight. He was like, you know what? I didn't stop Mikey Garcia. You're right. I didn't stop the guy that moved up. People want to say 2 weight classes. I didn't stop him. I didn't stop him in his first fight at welterweight. I'm supposed to be the boogeyman. I'm supposed to be this dangerous guy at 147, and I did not stop Mikey Garcia. But Shawn Porter, I stopped Kell Brook. I stopped the man that beat you. I went over to his country. Shawn Porter, you're saying that I've never been uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable when I went overseas to go get the belt that you lost. That's when I was uncomfortable, and that's when I broke this man's eye socket. I literally broke his face. I made him quit. I made him drop down to a knee, look at his corner, and quit. I broke the man that beat you, and I took your belt back to America. Errol Spence could have went in on Shawn Porter, but he chose not to. Or maybe those thoughts wasn't flowing through his head. Maybe Errol Spence is so focused on the fight and so focused on training, him just strictly talking about it may not be a priority now. Or it could have just been something that Errol Spence didn't think about. Whatever the case may be, overall, it was very entertaining. A lot of questions were asked about it. Errol Spence was extremely consistent with the things he said. His overall goal is he going to beat Shawn Porter ass September 28th. Now, Shawn Porter, certain things were odd because Shawn Porter was like, well, when do I stop? Or when have I been stopped? Or when do I give up? I'm going to keep going. It seemed like Shawn Porter was focused on the point that he has a motor, a non-stop motor, and it wasn't very convincing when Shawn Porter was saying that he was going to beat Errol Spence. It wasn't very convincing with that. Now, Errol Spence could have talked about Shawn Porter's power, his lack thereof of power when it comes to 147, but he didn't. He He did talk about his headbutts. He did say Shawn Porter was a dirty fighter. And Shawn Porter was like, so you think I do this intentionally? And my thing is, I feel like this is where Errol Spence, he could have used a little bit of reverse psychology on Shawn Porter. I mean, he could have simply told Shawn, like, Shawn, you are a professional fighter. You've been doing this for a long time. Anything that you do in this ring, fight after fight after fight, it's intentional because you're a professional and you know what you're doing. You're not some amateur, you're not some tomato can, some cab driver, some Uber driver off the street that just goes in there and just does anything and just fights sporadically because he doesn't know what else to do. He's not trained up. So yes, Shawn Porter, yes, you use your head intentionally because you come in with your head on a continuous basis, fight after fight after fight, and the fact that you are a professional fighter, you're a champion, you know exactly what you're doing. So yes, Shawn Porter, you're a dirty fighter. Now, you know, everyone discussed the preview that happened before when Shawn Porter said he was going to cut Errol Spence. We're going to see how you act when I cut you. We all heard the whole point where Errol Spence broke down to Shawn Porter the difference between skill and the difference between talent. If you haven't heard it, the quick summary was talent is God-given and skill is something that you work on and you build in the gym. Now, Shawn Porter responds to it, and I feel like it was a good response. The response was, if all I have to do is work on what God has given me, then I'm in a good place. Because basically Shawn Porter was making a point of that has already begun. So based off of what Errol Spence is saying, Shawn Porter feels that he's on the right track. My whole thing with this is Shawn Porter, he knows he's an underdog. You know, he's a smaller fighter. He is talking about his experience. And my whole thing with the experience factor is Errol Spence has experience as well, but Errol Spence's experience goes with beating the man that beat you. And Errol Spence could have strictly focused. He could have strictly focused on that Kell Brook fight because prior to that WBC belt, that was the last time Shawn Porter was a champion. And that's the belt that Errol Spence Jr. has at this point in time. But we're not that far away, guys. It's September 2nd right now. We're 26 days away from the fight, and I can't wait for it to happen. I feel like Errol Spence is at a point where he's annoyed, and he could have took it to Shawn Porter. He could have took it to Shawn Porter a whole lot more, but he didn't. And you know what? September 28th, this isn't a battle of words. This isn't it's not like who has the best skills in front of the camera. It's not a best dress competition. It's not a who can talk the most shit. It's a fight, and it's a championship fight at that. And I feel like Errol Spence and Shawn Porter will both show up to fight at a championship level, but ultimately, I feel like Errol Spence Jr. will come out victorious. And Errol Spence said to Shawn Porter, he said, you will congratulate me as a unified champ. That's what you would do. So that quote right there stands out to me because I feel like out of all the things that were said, the facts that were said, the opinions, things that weren't necessarily true, I feel like Errol Spence making that comment of the way the fight is going to end is with Shawn Porter congratulating him. I can already picture that happening in my head. And September 28th, that night, that Saturday night on pay-per-view, Fox, PBC, that's when this shit gonna go down. So, hey, congratulations to both of these guys for being in this unification bout at one of the most exciting divisions in boxing. I like how Errol Spence said that he's not focused on Manny Pacquiao, and Shawn Porter, he decided to mention Manny Pacquiao. It's going to be an exciting fight, guys. Don't stream this fight. Pay for it. Spend the money. It's definitely going to be worth it. It's going to be one of those fights where you got to watch it live. You're going to have to watch this fight live. It's going to be one of the most entertaining fights we see in a long time. I can just see it happening. Errol Spence, I have him stopping Shawn Porter. Some people don't see it. It's just me believing that Errol Spence has the ability to go up to 154 and be a dominant force. It's only logical for me to believe that he can stop Shawn Porter. I feel like Errol Spence is one of those guys where when he sets his mind to something, he can do it. Not saying Shawn Porter isn't, but it's a limit with everything. And some guys, they have to go back to the drawing board a couple of times. The one thing I do like is that Shawn Porter in this face-to-face, he doesn't doubt Errol Spence's greatness. It's one of those things where Shawn Porter comes off as a naturally honest guy, and sometimes certain things just slip through the cracks. And when Shawn Porter told Errol Spence that you're gonna achieve your goals or your legacy, you're gonna achieve that, I'm just gonna slow you down some. And guess what? Shawn Porter, you may very well slow Errol Spence down, but it's different paces that you can slow a person down. You may just win a more lopsided round in round 2, and then you're dominated from that point on. I mean, Shane Mosley, he slowed down Floyd Mayweather in their fight when he caught Floyd, but then Floyd came back and he dominated him. So we're going to see what happens September 28th, guys. I'm done talking about this face-to-face. I was entertained. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC, and I'm out.